Hello, and welcome to the podcast. In this episode, we talk about our college experiences during COVID, and we also touch on secondary school and motivation in secondary school. Cormac, how's college going?
Fine.
Do you have any exams coming up?
No, I'm finished at the moment. I just have one more essay to write, and then I'm pretty much done.
What was everyone's college experience for this year? Because it was kind of, wasn't the same as any others in the
Uh,
other years.
Fairly boring. Not really to do.
Do you think that was a benefit or a disadvantage?
I don't know. Certain elements of it were sort of an advantage, and some weren't. Um, didn't get to meet anyone really in person on the course, but sure, it's always next year. But at least for the lectures, some of them were recorded, so I could always go back on that lecture if I needed some help with the course.
Do you think that affected the grades that you get in first year?
I don't know. I feel like they might be a bit lenient on some of the modules because some of the modules would have been better done in person,
Yeah.
and doing it online has kind of been a bit of a difficult thing to do. So I don't know.
Do you think it'll be back to normal next year?
I'm not going to predict anything. I don't know what the hell the world's going to go. So I'll say I'm hopeful, but I don't know.
How about you, Kyle? How do you feel your course went with the circumstances we're in?
Let me be completely honest, okay? I think that this year has been the biggest waste of money in their life.
Yeah. Because if you look at like the big picture, it's this year is like near enough no benefit to anybody. Because it's like, what's the difference between us attending college down in Dublin or in Galway or wherever we're going, compared to we could be going to somewhere in America or somewhere in England because we're not on campus, and what we have to pay to get into the college and other expenses. Why are we? What's the point of us doing that? We're not getting the most benefits from the college experience. Not just from social life, but being in person with lecturers and other students.
Hmm.
Like, I found myself thinking back to like September when we got our results or whatever, and I remember my my mom was telling me to like, oh, defer defer this year or like do a PLC this year because it won't be like the best college experience. And I just didn't listen. I just like, oh, I want to go to college, like because that's like what you want to do in 6 year because you spent that whole year visiting colleges, like reading about them in those books that they give you, and then you just want to go, right? Um, Especially like I just wanted to leave the house, and then well, this turned out like this, and I should have thunk it through. Like it's COVID, it's COVID. Like you're not going to be on campus. I guess that was just me,
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like,
just being stupid and like naive to the situation. Like, like especially recently, like these past few weeks, I've just been thinking, oh, I should have deferred. Oh, I should have listened to my mom. Like I should have just done a PLC or something. Because I don't know. I feel like the year was a waste. Because I'll be honest, I didn't learn much. Um, I didn't feel engaged in the course at all because you're not on campus, you're not in the lecture halls, you're not meeting these lecturers, you're not meeting other students. Like I just feel robbed. Like I'm doing a 4 year course and I feel like I've been robbed of one of them.
yeah, no, definitely. Because like the situation this year is like, especially we you know, as you said in sixth year, we prepare ourselves for this college experience, and it's like, I think, I don't know, it's hard to say because I don't want to be wrong about what I say. But yeah, I think this year was kind of a waste because you look at some of the stuff that you would be doing in college, and when your college experience is from home, where home is like a place of, compared to secondary school, school was at school. You come home, you maybe do your homework, but then it's like a place of comfort, and that place of comfort has kind of been robbed from us since we've had to bring school into the environment that we kind of cherish.
I think the opposite happened for me. Um, I brought my place of comfort to school, if you know what I mean,
Oh, okay, yeah.
because I'm just not productive at all at home when it comes to schoolwork. I like in sixth year, if I wanted to have any study done, I had to go to the library
Oh
because
no,
if
no, but that's the point that I mean. Like, you'd have school at school. You'd maybe do, like in your situation, you're going to the library to do homework. So you've completely taken school out of your home, near enough. Like the stress of doing homework or whatever, and your home is a place of comfort that you wouldn't have to do homework or you wouldn't have to worry about school. And then it's like this year where you've had to bring school into that place. Am I getting that right?
yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I also think I'm just lazy.
Well, I think it's okay to be lazy nowadays because there's no motivation. I don't think anywhere to do really anything. Because even if you look at the small picture, like motivation to do homework, you think in your brain you don't want the repercussions of not doing that. But it's like there's so much that you can get away with. Like, if it's like not turning up to lectures, or if it's not, well, handing in assignments, but leaving stuff to last minute.
I think you're right because in like sixth class of like primary school, um, I would never miss a day. I would always do my homework. I would like finish top of my class in like tests because it's like the teacher is always like looking over you, making sure you're doing that stuff right.
Yeah.
And then the more I was going through secondary school, like first year, it's like whatever, easy enough, It's kind of like primary school, but I already started to feel like I didn't have that gratification. Like if I do my homework, teacher isn't gonna be like, "Oh, good job,"
Yeah.
It's like, or like if I do well on the test, they're not gonna freaking put your name up on a star at the front of the classroom. So I think that's why, like, by third year, I just did not care about school as much as I used to. And then TY definitely didn't help
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
because I missed about 40 days of TY. Just didn't come into school because I don't like. I think I just lost all motivation to like do well academically.
Yeah.
Like the only um what's it called, motivation I've or had at times was because like, oh, I didn't want my friends to think I was stupid,
Yeah.
instead of um doing well because I wanted to do well. It was like, oh, I want to do well because I don't want people to think I'm dumb, or like I don't want people to look down on me.
Yeah. I think that is natural. Like, it shouldn't be something to be ashamed of, like, because it's, because I think even I felt that with school. School was at some points just a waste of time, and it's like some of the stuff they have to do in school is kind of pointless. You know, what's your opinion on the education system? Like, you know, as you said, with sixth year, you'd be top. You'd be doing well. What were like the main problems that you've like found with secondary school in Ireland?
Um, I don't, I don't think it's like, I don't think it's, I don't know. I don't have a real opinion about the teaching system in Ireland. Like,
Yeah,
I think it was just, okay, so before sixth class, right? I was the exact same way as I was in secondary school. Like
yeah,
before sixth class, I would just be like, I'd be a waste man as well. Or like before fifth and sixth class, I think. And then fifth class happened, some shit happened. But then sixth class, I think it was because my teacher was so good. Like I honestly think she was the best teacher ever.
that you wanted to not disappoint.
Yeah, like she motivated you like to do well. Like she motivated me to do so well. I don't even know how. She always like had that gratification. Like she always gave you that gratification if you did well. And then she'd also like she'd punish you if you did bad.
Yeah,
Um and then I think the difference between her and the teachers in secondary school was just they didn't do that.
it was like night and day, near enough.
Yeah, because they can't um put that much effort into a single class because they take so many throughout the day.
Yeah,
And so I don't think it's maybe like I don't see any flaws. It's like there probably is.
yeah. No, I
Like
know
there
where you're coming from.
like there definitely is, but I think it was just more jarring for me to see the differences because I'd finally experienced like a teacher that made me want to do well, and then I'm in this environment where it's not the same, and
Yeah,
so I just go back to how I was before. And that's not saying that there aren't good teachers in our secondary school, but it just like just how secondary school differs from primary school. It's not going to be the same amount of effort from the teachers just because they don't have time.
no, definitely, definitely. I think like, because it's such a niche environment. Primary school is that we are one on one with teachers that we do respect or that we don't respect, and 'cause especially in first year, you're dealing with like a lot more than what you were used to. Um, I don't know because it's weird. Does anyone else have anything that they'd like to mention?
About education.
Yeah, about your kind of experiences. It could be primary, secondary, or college. Talk about what's happening this year and how it's affecting, or if it is affecting you in
Um,
any way.
I'll say this about calculated grades, especially last year for what we did. Like, I think it was kind of a two-way street of how calculated grades could have impacted you, because I think a lot of people, a lot of students, especially a lot of people kind of in our kind of year, there's two different people. There's one type of person who doesn't, because of how they don't find school challenging, they just don't really care, and what they end up doing is just cramming until the last second. And there's the people who like kind of care but not really, because no one really cares about school, but they still kind of put a little bit of effort in. And because of that, those two camps, one did better than the other just because of how it happened. So like a person who would have crammed and probably could have done really well didn't, because of the fact that they just weren't motivated during the school, because the school didn't motivate them, and so they didn't get as good of a grade. But then the person who probably knew that the only reason why they were doing it throughout the whole thing is because they knew that if they tried to cram it, they wouldn't have done as well, that they just happened to do better because they just did the minimal amount of work.
What
and
do oh no, keep on going.
And like for me, like I don't think I'm that good of a like I wasn't really like I was just probably a bit of a goody two shoes. I would just do the work. I never really cared about anything. I've never had much drive for schoolwork in a very long time. I think what was it in like I think it was in sixth class. I remember for a time, for like a couple of years before that, I was really into like having everything done. I'd have everything done all the time. I would put all my effort into it. But sometime in sixth class, I realized how stupid and bullshit the whole system was. And I remember, I think you remember, Patrick, how for like months I just didn't do any of the work because I just thought it was pointless. And I think that whole idea of it just kind of creeped into my psyche. And then for most of my time in secondary school, I just didn't really care. So I just put the bare minimum in for everything. And like I'd either slightly rush it or I'd like do a bit of work, and then but there was only like one or two classes I actually enjoyed, while everything else was just kind of like passingly enjoyed. I only did it, and another thing about it is that I think the system is kind of broken, because you're not going to classes, you're not doing all this work because you like it. You're doing it because so you can do well in an exam at the end of the year, at the end of your whole time in there. So you don't actually have. That's also why I imagine my drive and the drive of other students is just gone, because they don't care about what they're doing. All they care about is just spewing out all of this useless garbage onto a paper at the end of your whole time in secondary school. So I don't know, was calculated grades a good thing? Maybe it'll try and incentivize more people to work, like actually engage with the content. I don't know. Like, to be honest, I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with this point, really.
Do you know how we mentioned on kind of the motivation of school? How do you think like secondary school can boost the motivation of a student to kind of do better or fulfill what their abilities are?
Well, I think really the whole idea of the leaving cert should be scrapped, and I think it should be replaced with something that does motivate and actually encourage people. Because, like, what's it? 90% of the classes you go to, there's about 5 to 10% of the people there who actually care. Another 90% are just either messing or talking with each other or don't give a shit about what they're learning. Like that, and then because of that, that fosters the idea of most of the students just don't care, and they just go into school because they want to hang out with their friends. They go into school because they want to just, it's the only place they can go to. And so, and then, as I said, they're just learning the stuff off. They're not actually learning it. So I think what you should do is first scrap the leaving cert and make it a system where you either split up the classes to get in with the mindset of the people who are learning. So like if you have a person who's more creative, try to ask them, like say in first year, you ask them what kind of a person they want to be. And if they want to be creative, you put them in all the kind of creative stuff. If they're more of a person who works with their hands, you put them in the classes where they want to work with them, so that you can actually encourage them to do stuff. Like if they're a maths person, yeah, get them into that kind of a system, and then slowly throughout their time in secondary school, you do a kind of a continuous assessment thing where you keep monitoring how well they do, and then at the end of the whole time, they should be well versed and in their subject and really happy about what they're doing. And then when they go on to do either a college or they go on to do an apprenticeship, they actually are happy with what they're doing or not. And then another thing about the leaving cert is that when you come to picking your choices for to go to college or to go to an apprenticeship, you're just picking something you find that maybe you kind of enjoy, and that's also a thing about the classes that you pick in for the leaving cert. Like for me, for first third year, I did not care a shit about business. I didn't care at all. But then I realized I did reasonably well in business, so I decided, heck, I'll just do business for leaving cert, and I'll do fine. I'll get the points I need to get in the course, and so I just did it because I didn't really care. I just did it because I knew I could get good points in it.
So coming on to that point, though, I think because if you look at it, the people who do best in the leaving cert are the people who can retain information. And like that's one of the main, like, because I think that's a small percentage of students in secondary school that can retain their information. Because like at the end of the day, the leaving cert is just like compared to an open book exam. I think an open book exam, if you were to do the leaving cert, would be it'd be a lot more. It'd be easier on the students because you look at some of the stress that some students go through. It's outrageous. It's horrendous on the mental health side of it, and at the end of the day, you won't have a strong mental health compared to actually being able to retain memory, because especially when you're doing the leaving cert, you're doing 2 exams a day. The stress builds up, the pressure builds up, because realistically, say if you want to do something that you want to do, say maybe you do want to be a doctor, a dentist. Sorry. If you do want to be a doctor, a dentist, a high-ranking scientist, you're aiming for those. And the stress that you're put under to get maximum points, because realistically, you are looking at maximum points if you want to get into some of those professions. And to retain information for some exams that, we can look at the junior cert and go, okay, junior cert is absolutely useless. Because it's what's the point? They say it's you getting ready for the leaving cert. We're doing a ton of subjects that you're not interested in, number one, that you don't find interesting, but you're still trying to retain information for those subjects, which is wasted. You're wasting your ability on those subjects compared to the subjects that you're actually interested in or want to do. I think predicted grades are good in the fact that what you said about continuous assessment. Because if there was a continuous assessment, like, kind of implemented into classes, it's like you could be good at one thing in a class, but terrible at another. Take maths, for example. I don't think there's anyone that's good at every aspect of maths. And the only people who do really well in maths are the people who are able to retain memory.
I think another element that I think is major on how people do well in the leaving cert is the reliance on grinds and schools like the Institute of Education and stuff like that, because no fault to the teachers of their own. Like, I envy a lot of teachers because I could not think of sitting in a classroom for 6 hours a day teaching 40 kids for like 40 minutes to an hour and doing it like 9 times a day for a lot of them. They're obviously under loads of stress, and they just don't have they don't have the idea to just put it all out, because they are also not motivated. So because they're not motivated, the students feel like they're not learning enough, and so then they have to rely on paying so much money on grind schools and just grind lessons, and that like builds it. Like I think, I'm not naming names, but I know there's a college, I know there's a secondary school that I know people go to, and they tell me that like the teachers don't really care, and that 90% of students go to grinds, because they just can't, because the teachers aren't motivated, they don't care, and so they have to go to grinds, and they spend €20 lesson or 30 or whatever. I never went to a grind, so I don't know how much it is. But even actually, I went to the institute. I know that that's quite expensive.
Yeah.
But like, it's all this money going into it, and it's just wasting when you could just you could try to motivate the teachers by actually circle them in on like either certain classes and make them not have to correct a million tests every week and like have to like worry about fucking, I don't know, bullshit like fucking like some, I don't, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Because it's like, yeah, definitely the bit about teachers unmotivated. Because, I don't know.
What do you mean though? Like, is that not their job to teach?
But that's the whole point.
Right. You're talking about motivation, but they study to be teachers. To, like, do you know what I mean? Like, you're talking about how they need to be motivated, but they study to become teachers. So you'd think they would be motivated in their career. Like,
It's life for you, because you go in thinking that, oh, I love to be a teacher. It'd be great to teach people and all this stuff. But then when you get down to it, all the nitty gritty stuff of fucking dealing with 40 people, 90% don't care, a bunch, like half the class are just a bunch of messers who don't care about you, don't respect you, just fucking fling papers. And after a while, after years of working on it, you're just like, I don't care anymore. So that's what happens to a lot of older teachers, and they know, really, I don't have to do much because I already have tenure. I can do whatever, do the bare minimum, because they just lose motivation over time because they realize how fucking stressful it does get to them. And then in turn, that stress goes back on the students because then they feel that their fucking teachers don't care. So what's the point do I go here? So they go out to get grinds, or they just don't care at all. It's a whole system. The whole just secondary school system is just fucked.
yeah, but I'm not gonna name any names. But when it gets to the point where your whole class has to go look for a different teacher to teach them, I think at that point you just need to reevaluate yourself or retire.
Or the school board should like have a thing where like people sending complaints about the teacher, and so either the teacher decides to retire or goes to a training course to kind of get more, or takes a break, takes a gap year, something like that, so they can either gain back their thing, or, as I said, just retire if they need to, depending on their age.
See, there was something about that happened, like that happened in UCD, like recently, like a few days ago, I think. One professor, um, he like he was like late on a couple classes, or like late uploading exams or something. They were like and they were like 5 weeks late, or like 5 weeks behind on their coursework. Um, and like he'd always go on a tangent about like irrelevant things, like somebody we know. Um, but yeah, and then the students all like sent complaints to the board, and then he came out and said, like, he did an interview, or and was like calling them all stupid and stuff. That was kind of funny.
Hey, thank you for listening to the podcast. If you'd like to listen live, we stream the podcast most days on twitch.tv/padder. Hope you enjoyed, and have a good morning, a good evening, or a good night whenever you're listening. And let's have a good day tomorrow. And if we're not having a good day, let's make it a good day by doing something that we enjoy, by doing something that makes us happy. See you in the next episode.